Day 21. Day 21 of 30 Days with Ham Radio. This has been an ongoing project that I've very much enjoyed doing. We are doing this in part to support the ARRL Teachers Institute. Go to ARRL.org/30 days to make a donation. We have a goal of $30,000 over the course of 30 days, and we're not really quite at that goal right now. We haven't really been meeting it, but I really do appreciate the donations you guys have made, and I would like to try to get more done between now and the end of this series. So please visit that URL in the description below. Today we're going to be talking about me studying for my extra exam. Now, all of the videos I have done so far, APRS, WinLink, VHF contesting, FM simplex, pretty much everything, almost everything that I've done so far is totally doable with a technician license. Once you get into the area of general and extra, you open up HF, and you can do things like parks on the air, beaches on the air, islands on the air, and U.S. islands on the air, summits on the air, lighthouses on the air, and this kind of thing. Now, technically, you can activate all of those on VHF as well, which technicians can do. There's just less people, and it's a little bit harder to do, and it takes some more robust equipment. So, HF is simpler to do, for lack of a better description, and that is where the fun really kind of begins. So, I have been a general operator for about 10 or 12 years, something like that, and I've been halfway kind of a little bit studying for my extra exam. So we're going to go through a lesson today on the extra exam, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, as I've said in many of these episodes, this video series is not sponsored. I do sponsored videos during my normal videos, on regular days and regular months. During this 30 days, I'm not having any sponsors at all. But one of the sponsors that I do have on a normal video is Ham Radio Prep. Ham Radio Prep offers license courses for technician, general, extra. They offer MCOM courses, satellite courses, HF basics, Baofeng basics, a lot of different other stuff. They're working on some new courses right now as we speak. You can always save a 20% discount on all of their courses with the coupon code of Jason20. And I'm going to show you today what the extra course exam looks like. And we're going to go through 1 or 2 modules today. And this is what you can expect from this type of study guide. Now, there are lots of ways to study. You can watch free classes on my YouTube channel. You can buy a book and just read it yourself. You can get different free apps. You can get different paid apps. Ham Radio Prep has a free app you can download on your phone, iOS and Android both, and you can get started right now for no money at all. Once you open up the paid subscription, number one, it lasts forever. So if you don't have a license right now, or you're just a technician and you need to take 2 more courses, then you can buy it now, buy the package deal now, and it never expires even when the question pool updates. But you can get started for free with an app on your phone right now. And when you purchase the paid version, it opens up even more description, more information, more ability to pass the test. And they do have a money-back guarantee. If you don't pass your test after so many tries, then they will refund you. But they have like over a 99% pass rate. So it's very easy to do. So let's take a look at this study course right here. I'm going to show you the intro, which I've already watched.
Hi, and welcome to the Ham Radio Prep Amateur Extra Class License Course. I'm Jim Reed, N4BFR, and I'll be your instructor. This course will teach you all the material you need to know to pass the US FCC Amateur Extra License Exam. On the extra exam, you'll have to answer 50 questions that come from a pool of over 600. This course covers the answer to every question you will see. You need to score at least a 74% to pass.
In the free app that you get, I don't think you get the videos. The videos come with the paid app, I believe. There might be a few scattered videos throughout the free version, and if you're the type of person who learns by reading and just by studying a book, then use the free version of the app. Use the free version. And if that's the way you learn, do it that way.
You'll read a text lesson to reinforce the concepts. In the video and the text lesson, pay close attention to the blue words. The blue words are the word-for-word correct answers on the actual FCC exam. You can adjust the playback speed on the video to fit your learning style. After each video and text lesson, you'll take a quiz to test your knowledge. Once you can pass the lesson quiz with higher than an 80% or 90%, you're ready to move on to the next lesson. We've included learning games in the course that'll help you get some extra practice too. Each lesson video will cover around 20 actual exam questions, so you'll go through 30 lessons in all. After completing all the lesson videos, use the practice test to check your exam readiness. The practice test is generated exactly like the real FCC exam. It contains 50 questions that are pulled from across the lessons. These are generated using the same methodology as the actual exam. When you take your exam, you must score at least 74% to pass and receive your license. Make sure you're regularly scoring 80% or higher on the practice test here before you schedule your exam. Exams are scheduled in person or online with an accredited VEC. We'll guide you through the exam scheduling process at the end of this course. When you pass your FCC exam, you'll get a certificate of completion from the volunteer examiners. Now, we love to brag about our students, so take a picture with your certificate and submit it to us using the form at the end of this course. We'll be glad to send you a free gift once you passed. If you want to use different methods to study, we have you covered. The use of the app and our website are included with the course. If you prefer audiobooks, you can add these lessons on Audible. If paper books are your thing, the course text is available on Amazon. So set aside some time to start going through the lessons, and remember, we are here for you. Reach out to our friendly support team if you have any questions or need help.
All right, so that goes on for about another minute and a half, something like that. And this is incredibly good information. I wanted you guys to see what the basics were. 50 question test, have to get 37 to pass, 600 questions in the question pool for the current exam. And when that question pool updates in a couple years, if you already have the ham radio prep course, it will auto update to the newest question pool, and you'll be able to go in and study that if you haven't done your test yet as of yet. Okay, you guys are going to get to see me take a course, go through a study course. Looks like it's 8 minutes long. And this is on Lesson 1, Operating Standards and Frequency Privileges. Okay, so we're not going to go through the whole course here simply because it's very long. I'm going to go through one lesson. This is just to show you what it looks like. And this is to show you how easy it is to study for your extra exam. In fact, if you don't have a license at all, the technician courses will be very similar to this. And if you want to upgrade from tech to general, it's going to be very similar to this. I am a general. I'm upgrading to extra soon, hopefully. But I've been using this course to study, and I've been enjoying it so far. So I wanted to share it with you guys today.
As an amateur extra, you will get more privileges on HF bands. Let's start by focusing on the frequency privilege questions. On the 60-meter band, instead of the traditional band configuration, amateur radio operators have access to 5 channels. The carrier frequency of a CW signal must be at the center frequency of the channel to comply with FCC rules for 60-meter operation. This graphic shows the channels in the 60-meter band, with center frequencies at the top. The lower band edge for the channel is shown at the bottom. A data emission on the 60-meter band may operate with a maximum bandwidth of 2.8 kilohertz.
So 60 meters is one of those bands that we have in amateur radio that's actually channelized. You've got 40 channels on your CB radio. You've got 22 channels on your GMRS radio. In ham radio, we have a VFO, variable frequency oscillator. So in other words, if you go to channel 1 on CB radio, I think it's 26.975 or something like that, okay? You go to channel 2, it's 26.995. I may be getting those frequencies wrong, but it's usually like 10 or 20 kilohertz above the channel below it. So channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, you go up by 10 or 20 kilohertz. So in ham radio, I can go all in between those frequencies. I can go all the way from 7.225 megahertz. I can go to 7.225.1, 0.2, 0.3, 7.226, 7.227, 7.228, all the way up to 7.300. I can do that on the 40-meter band as a general. That's the general section of the 40-meter band. So I'm not limited to channels in most bands. But on the 60-meter band, we have 5 channels, 5 set frequencies, and that's where we operate.
More of the amateur extra privileges are near the edges of the band. Your transceiver displays just one number for the signal.
On a lower sideband, your transceiver will display the upper edge of the frequency. On the upper sideband, the number you see is the lower edge of the frequency spectrum you're using. What if you hear a DX station calling CQ on 3.601 MHz LSB? Your transceiver is displaying the upper carrier frequency of phone signals, so don't answer with a lower sideband signal of your own. Your 3 kHz signal would cover 3.598 MHz to 3.601 MHz, which is outside the band. It's illegal to return the call using lower sideband on the same frequency. That's because the sideband components will extend beyond the edge of the phone band segment. The lowest frequency at which a properly adjusted lower sideband emission will be totally within the band is 3 kHz above the lower band edge. This process is similar for upper sideband. Your radio will display the carrier frequency. On USB, that shows the lower edge of the band. A radio with a 3 kHz bandwidth USB signal operating on 14.348 MHz would be illegal. That's because the signal would extend to 14.351 MHz, meaning the upper 1 kHz of the signal is outside the 20-meter band. Let's do the same thing for a USB signal using the data modes. On the 20-meter band, the maximum legal carrier frequency when transmitting a 2.7 kHz wide USB data signal is 14.1472 MHz. That's because the phone segment starts at 14.150 MHz. For digital voice or slow scan TV, 3 kHz is an acceptable bandwidth for transmissions made on the HF amateur bands.
Okay, let's take the test. This is a quiz at the end of each section, so this lets you brush up on what you did learn and didn't learn. And it's good to take these at the end of each one, see how you did, and see if that's a category that you did well on. What is the highest modulation index permitted and the highest modulation frequency for angle modulation below 29? I believe that's 1. Modulation index describes how much the modulated variable of the carrier signal around its unmodulated level. For HF, it's no more than 1. Okay. Maximum power output permitted on the 2200 meter band. That would be 1 watt. What's the highest level carrier frequency on 20 meter band for transmitting 2.8 kilohertz wide USB data signal? Okay, that's going to be, yeah, right here, because 14.150 is the top of the data portion of 20 meters. Okay, so there we are right there. Why is it not legal to transmit 3 kilohertz bandwidth on an upper sideband and carrier frequency of 14.348? Because 3 plus 14.38 would be 14.351, which is outside of the upper 1 kilohertz is outside the 20 meter band right there. 14.350 is the top of the 20 meter band, so if you're transmitting above 14.350, it's not technically legal. Which of the following describes one of the standards that must be met for an external output power or lesser than 1500 watts Hz full output power? Okay. Spurious emissions. May an extra class operator answer the CQ of a station at 3.601 lower sideband? No. Sideband components extend beyond the edge of the phone segment band. How long must operator wait after filing notification with UTC before operating 2200 or 630 meter band? Operators must wait 30 days, providing they have not been told that their station is within 1 kilometer of a PLC system. Under what circumstances might the FCC issue a special temporary authority to an amateur station? For experimental communications. Under what circumstances may a dealer sell an external RF power amplifier capable of operation for 144 megahertz if it has not been granted FCC certification? The amplifier was constructed and modified by an amateur radio operator for use on an amateur radio station. In other words, it's not commercial, not a commercial amplifier. It was built by one of us. That's one thing, like I said a minute ago. We can build and operate our own equipment, unlike pretty much any other radio service that's out there. Which of the following constitutes a spurious emission? An emission outside the signal's necessary bandwidth that can be reduced or eliminated without affecting the information transmitted. When using a transceiver that displays the carrier frequency of phone signals, which of the following displayed frequencies represents the lowest frequency at which the properly adjusted LSB totally within bandwidth? 3 kilohertz above the lower sideband edge, I think. Yeah, okay. I was second guessing myself on that, but okay. On what frequencies is spread spectrum transmissions per minute above 222? What notifications must be given for transmitting a 630 or 2200 meter band? You have to do that UTC thing. Operators must inform the Utilities Technology Council. Call sign, coordinates of the station, okay. Maximum bandwidth for a data emission on 60 meters. Data emission. I'm going to say 2.8 kilohertz. Yes, correct. Okay. What's the maximum mean power level for spurious emission? So we talked about spurious emissions earlier. You want it to be below 40 dB, but according to this test, 43 dB, minus 43 dB was the maximum. So we're going to choose that. What is the required transmit frequency of a CW signal for the channelized 60 meter? At the lowest frequency of the channel, at the center, at the highest, on any frequency where the signal sidebands are within the channel. I'm going to say that. Oh, no. Oh, at the center. Okay, at the center of the channel. There you go. At the center of the channel. Perfect. So I would go back and study that one again and just make sure I know the answer to that question. In what portion of the 630 meter band are the phone emissions permitted? I think the entire band. Ah, yeah, I was right. I kind of guessed on that one. Except in some parts of Alaska was the maximum power output of 630 meter band, 5 watts EIRP. Which of the following is the acceptable bandwidth for digital voice, slow scan TV, HF bands, 3 kilohertz? Digital voice or slow scan TV, 3 kilohertz. 3 kilohertz is what it is for sideband. And I kind of thought it was 6 kilohertz for slow scan TV, but I'm probably wrong about that. So I'm going to guess 3 because 6 is not an option here. And I'm right. Okay. So that's what it is. 3 kilohertz. Same as sideband. 94%. I missed one. There we go. And that is the practice test, the practice quiz at the end of the first module for the extra class study course. Let's read some donations. Donations for today. We are up to $4,530 donated for the ARRL Teachers Institute. We had a new $115 in donations yesterday from 5 donors. The only note that was left says, in honor of all of the teachers who have inspired me throughout my entire life. So go to arrl.org/30 days to donate and help support the Teachers Institute. I do appreciate all the donations we're getting. We're way far behind in what my goal and my hope that we could get throughout this 30-day series. But I do thank you, all of you who did donate. And don't forget that I've had one donor say that he would match whatever donation I make to the channel, which means that all of the new subscribers that the channel gets for this period, I will donate 1 dime per subscriber. And for every video that reaches 10,000 views during this effort, I will donate $100 per video. There's 30 videos at $100 each. That's $3,000. So all you have to do is go watch the video, make sure all of them get to 10,000 views, and I'll donate $3,000 at the end of this effort. 73 guys, and we will see you tomorrow.